Spirit. I'm Kathleen Flanagan, your host, and I have Catherine Giovanni in the room with us. And we are talking with Catherine she is a 3-time award-winning bestseller author, speaker, and one of the original founders of the independent concierge industry. She's the author of more than a dozen books, including her latest, The Ultimate Path to Forgiveness, Unlocking Your Power. Catherine's journey is one of extraordinary resilience. She's a stage 3 breast cancer survivor who overcame a traumatic childhood, and those experiences now fuel her mission to help others heal. Through her work as a transformation mentor and intuitive, Catherine empowers people to release guilt, shame, and emotional blocks, guiding them toward lasting freedom and self-awareness. Today, she's here to share powerful insights, deeply human stories, and transformative tools, especially around the power of forgiveness, that just might shift the way you think about healing and about yourself. Welcome, Catherine.
Thanks so much for having me, Kathleen. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no worries. I can't wait for this conversation. It should be a good one. So what we'll do is we'll start out with just you tell everybody a little bit about you and your journey of becoming an awakening spirit, and we will watch it unfold from there.
Okay. I'm trying to decide how much to say and how much not to say.
Go down the road.
I have been clairaudient since the beginning. And I was raised in the 1960s and 70s, and the society had a very peculiar quirk back then. If you even so much as exhibited an ounce of intuition, they'd put a sticker on your forehead and said she's crazy as a bed bug, and they'd give you medicine and pop you in the funny farm with a straitjacket. You think I'm exaggerating? I am not. So everybody that was intuitive back then, we all kept it to ourselves. I hid what I could do, and I wish I was joking. I am not, for 40 years. And I originally hid it because I just was hearing voices in my head, and I'd ask a question and I'd hear the answer in my head. And imagine my surprise in grammar school when I discovered I was the only one that could do it. And they wouldn't give me the answers to test questions. It was mildly annoying. It doesn't work that way. And I very quickly learned that I was different than everybody else. And I was terribly bullied, badly. So because I didn't want to get stuffed into a locker, and I didn't want my family to give me medicine, which would have changed my life's course, I just didn't tell anybody anything. And I kept it a secret for years. And that's kind of how it started. I mean, over the years, I've learned to be clairaudient, clairvoyant, clairsentient, empathic, and probably one or two more. I started out as hearing, but I used to give people readings all the time, and I would flip the language. So they wouldn't know what I was doing and how I got my information because I didn't say anything. But I'd say things like, have you ever thought about, or, what would be good for you? Here's a wonderful out-of-the-world idea. I bet you haven't thought of this one, that kind of thing. And when people called me out on it, I'd just laugh it off and say, years of experience. It wasn't years of experience. I heard it. I just didn't tell them what I was doing. So that's kind of how I became the intuitive that I am today. But remember, I spent 25 years knee deep in the corporate world. And nobody knew what I was doing because I didn't say anything. But I'm not the only one. There's bunches of us out there who kept really, really quiet and probably still do today.
I agree with everything you said, because everything she said is true. It was my life exactly. I'm the same way. And I remember I worked in the legal field, and of course, you dress to the nines in the legal field.
You dress to the nines, and you don't tell them what you can do in the legal field. That's death if you say it.
And one day I got brave and wore a crystal around my neck. Do you know how much stress I was in all day, but I wanted to come out of the closet? If anybody noticed, they didn't say a word.
No, because they wouldn't.
No, but it was just one of those things that I'll never forget, getting off the elevator, knowing I had this crystal around my neck, and I'm wearing this blue knit dress. I'm in the nines, honey. And I'm thinking, and I had other gold chains around, so I can kind of like camouflage it. No, that didn't
Uh-huh.
work. But I just remember how scared I was of coming out of the closet, so to speak.
Yeah, I
And then
was too.
nobody said anything, and then it just slowly, I wore it every day and nobody said anything. But that was the extent of how brave I got. So I do understand that.
But you're
But I
scared you're gonna lose. Your people are gonna call you crazy. You're scared. I'm a serial entrepreneur, and I've had a lot of businesses over the course of my life. And I thought when I came out of the intuitive closet, I would lose all my clients. People would point and laugh, and I'd hear crickets chirping.
That didn't
And
happen.
well, admittedly, some of it did, but that's because I retired from one industry and I started a brand new one. They weren't chirping because I was intuitive, they were chirping because I was on a new road. But when you first come out of the closet, you're really, really scared.
Oh,
You're scared.
I think I had very shallow breathing for a very long time.
Yeah. Well, my
Because
family
I
was
was
saying it.
fine until that elevator door opened. I mean, I can still see it to this day when that elevator door opened, and I'm like, "Oh
Yep.
god, I just have to go around the elevator to the office." It was
Yeah.
one of those. So, I mean, I just to me, but I wanted to be brave. I didn't wanna hide that part of myself anymore because I really was part of that. It was part of who I was because I always knew what was going on. I mean, the same time I came out with that, Spirit actually told me this was really interesting. They said that I went to a psychic back in those days because, some days you just didn't know and they wouldn't tell you and they knew they shut up for a reason. And then I'd go to the psychic and they say, well, you're not supposed to know. And I'm like, why am I paying you money then? Give me my money back.
Yeah, you do
Because I
wonder
already
when they
know I'm
don't
not
tell you.
supposed to know. That's why I'm coming to you. I
Yeah.
mean, it was like, to me, it was a common sense thing,
Yeah.
but I remember a psychic at this one time, they decided they were going to talk to me. The psychic said, you're going to lose your job. And I was so shocked because
Wrong answer.
I'm usually really good about this stuff, right? And there was no sign, no sign. And I'm thinking, okay, I'm going to trust this because it hit so hard in my heart that it actually jolted me. So I ended up getting another job and I felt so bad about doing this. And when during the last 2 weeks of being there, his wife called me and said, I am so grateful you did this. We didn't want to fire you, but we knew we had to because just because of the economic situation. He worked with his dad. Ray was finally retiring because he was having too many strokes in the office. I mean, it was time.
Sure.
And I did that. I mean, he was the longest lawyer I ever worked for, 5.5 years, but I just remember how bad I felt and how shocked I was and so grateful that I listened to someone because I didn't get that information.
Universe,
Normally I do.
if the universe can't get you to listen inside your own body, they'll get you the information. You'll get flat on your back and sick, and you'll get the information, or you'll be in the mall, and you'll see something. They'll get you the information.
We can go down that road. Let me tell you, you have a way with you, Catherine, that you have said things to me that have wormed their way in. Okay. So I'm already starting this walk-in thing going on,
Hmm.
but we're not going to talk about walk-ins just yet. But what I am going to talk about is Thanksgiving, right before Thanksgiving, my sciatica went out and I
Yep.
didn't know why. So I knew I had to stop. And I was grumpy because, when you got your sciatica goes out, you're flat on your back and there's nothing you can do. So
I've
I did
had
all this
sciatica. It's painful.
icky, oh yeah.
It's
And it was
very
all
painful.
this icky, mundane work that I needed to do that I would never have done. And thank God I had the opportunity to get it done because I would never have done it. And it was like right after Thanksgiving, my hip got better, and all of a sudden, I'm, like, running 100 miles an hour. I started a community. I started really putting my courses together. I was doing, like, all this stuff, and I'm, like, choo, 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 going down 100 miles an hour. December 29th and 30th, I had to go to Wheatland, Wyoming, to do a periodic surveillance for one of the school districts we work for. Tuesday morning, my sciatica went out.
Mm.
And I'm like, I have a half a day's worth of work and a 2-hour drive home.
Bad timing.
And I'm like, okay, what is this about? So, of course, I'm flat on my back and I'm like, I don't know what this is about. And my
What's
whole
it trying to
entire,
teach me, you know?
well, I'll tell you what I got out of it. So I'm flat on my back again. I'm really grumpy, and it took 10 days for this to recover. And I mean, I'm like, my nervous system is dead. I mean, I am like dead. Once I get rid of the pain, I am so physically exhausted. So Spirit had the kindness because you told me that there's an entity working his way in, which I know who it is, and he is working his way in. And he came in right after the sciatica was healed, and he left when the sciatica came up again. So in that 5 weeks, I had done so much work. And even though I was managing my energy to the best of my ability, holding this intense energy that he is, I still went down. So
Sure.
now he's slowly coming back in, and I'm like, okay, I'm getting what's going on here now. So Catherine, you told me this, and he's letting me know when he's coming and going. Now I said, we don't have to do pain anymore. We don't have to
Yeah, you
do
might
it
wanna
that.
have that conversation with him saying, "Yeah, there's
Yeah.
other ways to do this."
Yeah, there's other ways to we can do this. And I just sat there and I thought, okay, so in the process, I also know there's other things going on within my body, right? So Sal
Mhm.
finds this doctor, we're getting taken care of, and we're starting this program on Thursday. So his stuff is in, mine comes in tomorrow, and we're starting this where it's a 90-day thing. Isn't that an interesting
That's
number?
great.
And I'm thinking, and this is all supposed to just get rid of all the density in my body, all the parasites that are in my body, viruses, whatever creepy things are living inside my body. But see, I needed him in to like really let me see what was going on because all this happened during that period of time when Dorian was in to let me see like, okay, so we're trying to get this body healed so I can get this energy frequency because, parasites and things like that are not good in your body. So I just thought it was rather interesting. So he's now starting to talk again.
There's people don't realize that there's so much to the world that we can't see, we can't hear it, we can't touch it. And the stuff that we've been taught, now we have to relearn a whole different paradigm. And what we've been taught, some of it was true, some of it frankly was bunk. And it's a question of keeping your mind open because answers come from deep down within you. And on the surface of it, that's a platitude. Okay, answers are inside of you, and I get it. Well, no, they really do. Because what you're doing is you're tapping into your higher self. You're tapping into your soul, if you will. You're tapping into a higher version of yourself. You can call him Tom, Dick, Harry, God, Sue. I don't care what you call it. You can call it your higher self. You can call it the angels. I don't care. You're tapping into source. And we were taught as kids, at least I was, that only special people can do that. But everybody can do it. Everybody can do what I do. It's nothing special. Everybody on the planet can do this. Everybody.
And it's true. And I know that when you get into alignment and you get in touch with you, where you really
Mhm.
own you, you start making that connection for the body,
Yeah.
mind, spirit, soul connection. But I think for me, when I read your book on forgiveness, I think that brought a whole new level because I even started getting an insight on the walk, and we're gonna go down this road a little bit now too. So
Yes,
I'm just
ma'am.
gonna blow all this away because this is fun. So the walk-in thing has been really upfront and
You might
because
want to explain what a walk-in is for those
oh, come
people in the
on,
back who
what
don't
a
get
I'd
it.
rather keep them confused. A walk-in is I made a contract with the version of me before me.
Right.
So this little girl, and I mean, she was a little tiny girl who was very badly abused. Now, I would witness this because I started to realize like the things that I would see weren't me, but I understood them to be me also. And the other thing that I noticed And this is a contract. This is like there's no penalties for doing this because you're saving a body for somebody else to come in and do something else, and we're getting out because maybe the circumstances changed during this, and this child couldn't take it because she was suicidal, she wanted to die, and she was b
Or some, sometimes they're suicidal, sometimes they've completed whatever it is that they were here on the earth to complete, and they want to, so to speak, die and go to the other side. And because we're on the front lines of something really great, everybody in the universe wants to be here. And I apologize in advance for saying it this way, but that's how it was told to me. There was a body available. They don't want to waste a body, so to speak. And I was told that this is very common. People just don't know about it. So she wanted to leave, and another soul came in, took her place. And it takes about 6 to 8 weeks for the new soul to acclimate to the body. Memories are exchanged as one soul goes out and another one comes in. Sometimes the contract was made before we even came here. Sometimes it's Johnny on the spot. There's a weird saying. And sometimes, sometimes it's because, well, I'm about to commit suicide. Okay, so you can leave. I'll come in. And the new soul, well, maybe you liked coffee before and now you like tea. Maybe your favorite color was pink and now it's blue. There are going to be differences, but and you probably won't remember your entire childhood. There's
I
gonna be
don't
gaps. That's the first flag that you might be a walk-in, is if you've got memory gaps. And
huge.
if there are big parts of time when your family's like, "Why don't you remember this?" Okay, well, you probably don't not because 'cause you're a walk-in.
Yeah, I don't remember anything from my childhood, and I knew that I was like, "If I can get past 8," well, it was actually 11, but I couldn't get past that, but I saw her life, and I had readings about her life that I didn't yet know about.
Right.
So as but what was interesting is what I wrote about in the anthology about my waking up process from my father when he had beaten me and I felt it. Well, what was interesting, the day before he died, this book went to publication. Day after he died. Day after. And I remember reading it because I had to give the final stamp of approval on the chapter, and there was a part in the bathroom when my father walked in and all of us girls are taking a bath, and I saw the bruises, and I looked up and thought, "How could you do this to your little girl?" And at that moment, I split. That's when I came in.
Yep, you're not always asleep, you're not always dying, sometimes it's instantaneous.
And it was at that moment because I could feel like the light like a lightning bolt come in and sever. I mean, that was the visual that they gave me at that moment. And what was even more interesting, because I always wondered, why did I turn on that man and square off at him? When I was a little kid, I was 11 years old, and he was coming after me, and I remember I turned, and I this is as clear as day to me. I said, "If you ever lay a hand on me again, I will call the police for child abuse."
You were a different soul. Sure you did.
But I didn't know that.
No, of course not. None of us do.
I
None
know,
of us do.
but what that's what but see, that
I
was
just
like
outed
the
myself,
connecting of
didn't I?
the dots of because I was like, as my uncle described me, as just this happy little, fool type kid, the fool in
Yeah.
the tarot deck. I was happy. I loved everyone. Everyone loved me. I was so happy to see everyone. Well, that went away when I came in. It went away. But I also picked up hers and I had to go through and release her trauma and all of that. So when I
And
was
you
doing
do.
your Huh?
You do. Yeah, I mean, it's still the her trauma is in your body cells.
Yes, yes, I
Your
know.
soul might not be in there, but her trauma is literally in the
Yep,
cells of your body, and you can release this through forgiveness, but it's still there, you still have to process it.
right, and that's what I started to do when I read your book on forgiveness because I took on a whole new level of what forgiveness meant for me, and I remember the day that she came to me and said, "I'm ready to go now." Because I didn't even know she was still around, but I think she
Sure.
was around watching, making sure I'm okay, and because my father was dead now, it was like it was time for her to leave too, because now I'm like, "Okay, I'm ready to let you go," and it was just a simple thing of, like, thank you for taking over. Thank you for giving me the body. Everything's fine. There's no ill
Right.
feelings. There's none of it. It was just, and it was like when she left, I could feel a shift in my body when she left too. It was really, it's an interesting concept. It's an interesting experience because I didn't think I was a walk-in until you, Catherine said, "Oh, yes, you are."
Nobody thinks I'm a walk-in too. I don't usually admit to it, but I am. And I walked in, I tried to commit suicide in the 8th grade because I was bullied and I was different. And my parents were raging alcoholics. And it was just connect all the dots you want to. Yeah, that it was all of that and more. So I tried to commit suicide. A friend talked me out of it. And I turned into one of those teenagers, draped in black. Of course, I was living in New York City at the time. We were all wearing black. So I don't know how I'm still wearing black today. Anyways, I was just kind of drifting. And my parents thought I was a real screw up. So they sent me to a program called Dynamy, which long since folded, but it was an outward bound kind of program for troubled teens.
Oh, no.
And half the year was spent, my husband laughs whenever he hears this story because he just doesn't think I was a troubled teen. He roars with laughter. But half the year you're out in the woods canoeing and rappelling and climbing mountains, and the other half you're in Worcester, Massachusetts going through internships. And part of it is you're in the woods for 3 days by yourself with no food. And that's when I walked in because you can only lie to yourself for so long. I was angry and I came out of those woods a completely different person. And the people who were leading it looked at me and said, "Nobody's changed as much as you have. What happened out there?" And I had no idea what happened. I was a kid. I was like 19 years old. And I said, "I don't know. I guess I just decided to grow up." And I didn't realize what I was until maybe 30, 40 years later when I heard the term walk in and I started connecting some dots. Now, you may think this is just a fluke thing between two people who randomly met each other, but what the two of us will look at you and say, there are millions of walk-ins out there. It's really common to be honest, but nobody talks about it. But it is really, really common. And if you think you're a walk-in and you're identifying with this conversation, you probably are. Google walk-in. There's a book about it, which I recently discovered on the internet. But if you Google the term walk-in, you'll get all sorts of information.
Yeah, it was, what was his name? Something Dick Stephan, I think it was a walk-in. It was the first concept I heard about it in the 80s, I think it was. I
Yeah.
mean, I had access to a lot of things. I mean, I had access to a lot of things when I was, because in my 20s, I'm sitting here, how do I know about the Brotherhood of the White Light, the Council of Nine? I'm an empath. I mean, all these, I was so incredibly intuitive.
You
There were
walked
so,
in with that language.
I
That's,
know, I
not
did.
every soul wants to go through the birth process and toddlers. Some souls want to come down here to the planet into a human that's already been through that stuff. So some of them say, "Okay, you do the first half, I'll do the second half, and that works for me fine." There's 1,000 reasons why people, get walk-ins. It is not it's not multiple personality disorder. Kathleen and I do not need straight jackets, although I want mine in purple if I do get one, please. The designer color would be perfect. You know, and one of the things that I do teach is anger acts like a shield. It acts like a shield to your intuition. It acts like a shield to your higher self. It acts like a shield to your real path and what you're here to do.
And I was
Why do I
angry.
keep repeating the same patterns? Why do I keep dating the same guys? Why do I get money and then lose it and then get money and lose it? Why am I still living in this horrible apartment? It's the anger. And the system that I came up with, which is a step-by-step system, shows you how to forgive, because that's the problem. Everybody tells you to forgive. Everybody looks at you and says, "Oh, Kathleen, just let it go." How? How? Is that the magic words? I let it go and I can magically let it go like magic beans? No, it's not. You need a system, a step-by-step system that says, "Okay, here's how you let it go." Because none of us were taught. There's nothing wrong with anybody. You just weren't taught how.
In Catherine's book, it's very simple. I mean, she opens the book. This is so funny. She opens the book like, I like my anger and I'm not getting rid of it. And why should I change for you? I mean, that's how she
Yep.
opened the book. That's how I felt. When Sal read the book, he's like, yep, that's how I feel too. I mean, it was like when you have anger, you like it because it's your friend. And
And
it
it's
was my
also,
friend
if
until I
if
didn't
it
want it.
if it's unforgivable and there are unforgivable things in the world, I don't want to forgive because they don't deserve my forgiveness. Okay, there's a lot of falsehoods about forgiveness out there. The main one is just because I forgive you doesn't mean I want a relationship with you. I probably don't. Just because I forgive you doesn't mean I all of a sudden I'm going to call you. We're going to go out and have coffee. Forgiveness is selfish. It's personal. You do it in the privacy of your own home. Nobody has to know. Just because I forgive you doesn't mean all of a sudden I'm saying you were right and I was wrong. I'm giving you a pass. It does not. You're still wrong. You're still a dumpster fire and you still have amends to make. And I still don't want you anywhere near me. Right? Forgiveness means simply, I want you out of my head. That's it. I want to stop thinking about you. I don't want to go into the bakery and smell an apple pie. And because you were an expert at apple pies, now I'm down that rabbit hole and I'm triggered again. This will completely stop those thoughts so you can breathe again and you can finally become the person that you were always meant to be.
And it's true because I've done a lot of forgiveness work around my father. This is Marco, in case you guys don't know.
Ooh,
Hello.
orange cat.
Yeah, he's our happy boy. Anyways, my father, when he died, I've done a lot of processing with my father throughout my life. And I remember at the time when he died, and I kept saying it's complicated. And as I keep reflecting during this last, well, almost a year now with him, it was it was like the floodgates opened of whatever I had buried and stuffed, but it wasn't anger and it wasn't revenge and it wasn't anything. It was just an emotions that opened up that I didn't understand. But I went down rabbit holes at the same time because as a thought came up, and it wasn't for him, it was he doesn't deserve my tears. He doesn't deserve this. And spirit had to tell me because nobody was there to help navigate me through this because I wasn't supposed to, I was supposed to do it myself. And I got that. And it was spirits like, no, these are tears for
Kind of
your
giving you
healing.
a road sign or a little bit of a heads up.
No, they didn't do that because they know
Uh,
I'm
They
tough.
wouldn't
I
give
can
it to
take
me
it.
either. It always irritated me.
I
Like,
know.
give me some smoke signal, something.
I know. And what was interesting that when we did the launch for the book, and I remember talking to people and they're like, why didn't you tell me you were so depressed and you were suicidal? And it was like, first of all, you never entered my consciousness.
Right.
That was the first thing. And secondly, I said, I understand everything. It was like because I went through that and I had to face that I'm never going to have a dad. He's never going to come around and heal himself for me. He's never going to be the man I've ever wanted him to be. I had to take all of that stuff as a little girl, knowing he's a perpetrator, knowing he's evil and dark and bad and everything else. And I still had to own that I loved him and that I missed him. And I'm so angry that I never had a father, but it's okay that I never had a father because I
Right.
had to own that, just like my mother. I mean, what I did for my father is what I expected to do for my mother and vice versa because I saw things about my mother I didn't know were there, and that was pure anger, and that was intense forgiveness, and having to come to the fact that I still love my mother regardless of the fact that she never loved me.
But it's
Now,
okay
maybe
to be
part of this
angry.
was because we were both I mean, you told me she's a walk, and I'm still wrapping my head around that one because she had to do that long before I was born.
Oh, I'm
But
sure
it
she
would
did.
make sense because of what her life was.
Oh, I'm
Because
sure
I
she
know.
did walk in long before you were born.
Oh,
It was
yeah.
not during your lifetime.
Yeah. So and it's all okay, but because my mother said, I think I'm a walker. Like, I don't think so. You better bitch the whole time.
I'm telling you, walk-ins are really common. We just don't know it. There's a lot of
Right.
stuff out there that's really common that we don't know about. This is one of them. It's really
Right.
common.
And so, but it's an interesting concept to look at and see, and the fact that we have so many different types of people here that are walk-ins coming from different galaxies, different planets, different
Oh, yeah.
solar systems, because this is about the ascension of this planet. This is
And
about the ascension of us. This is about waking us
they all
up.
want a front row seat, and I've been joking for a very long time now. It's like, okay, guys, you think this is all fairy tales and lollipops, but I'm here to tell you, are you sure you want to be here on the front row? Because, it's not exactly a cakewalk. You know what I'm
No, it's not a
saying? It's just,
cakewalk.
and I get a lot of laughter in my head when I say that, as if they're patting me on the head, say, oh, yeah, yeah. No, they don't get it.
No, they don't. But it's at the same time though, as much as I'm like, "Oh, do I have it in me to keep doing this?" And somewhere deep down I do. I keep moving forward. I
Oh,
can
this is
get
my last lifetime here. Are you kidding? Next time I even threaten to come down, I want you to either come over and smack me across the side of the head and say, "Remember the last time?" Yeah, no.
no, my directive is the
Somewhere
next
else.
time if I come down again, I have full remembrance. So that means I could be a Looney Tune in an institution because I would have full
Be careful what
remembrance.
you ask for. You
I
might
know,
wanna be
right?
more specific.
Right. So I figured, okay, I don't
You
I
might
don't
be
wanna come down.
drooling with a straitjacket and a pen, a pencil.
Well, maybe I'll do what the angels do now. I'll come in and make an appearance for somebody
There you
and be
go.
that kind of a person, right? So
There
I'm
you
not
go.
here, but I can go back and forth all the time, like the ascended Jesus and all that.
That
Yeah,
might be fun.
I
I'm gonna
think
take
that
a
would be a lot
lifetime
more
off
fun than
myself.
this. No, it's all good. I just get a but s but what I was saying earlier that when I had knowledge to things I should not have had knowledge
Yeah.
to in my 20s. And now it's just slowly coming out because I'm being told it's okay to bring it out now.
But that's what a lot of people things come out of people's mouth and they don't know where it come from. And a lot of them, especially if they're clairsentient, no, I'm wrong, claircognizant. One minute they don't know it, the next minute it just downloads into their head. So they don't think they're intuitive because it came from their brain. But it did. I mean, how could you possibly know that? Sometimes people are going to die ahead of time. You know what a room's going to feel like when you walk
Yep,
in. If you're
yep.
empathic, you walk into a room and it just feels off. Okay, if it feels off, you might want to look around the room and then walk out of the room. Thank you very much. You're shaking somebody's hand in an interview. Their resume is perfect. They're just perfect. They're saying the right words. I mean, it's picture perfect, but something's off, like really off. So you ignore it and you hire the person. And 3 months down the line, they steal from you or something blows up, and you say these magic words that everybody says, I knew I shouldn't have done that. How many times have you said, I knew I shouldn't have done that? I'm
That's
alive today because I didn't ignore that little bird in my shoulder. True story. I am violently allergic to exercise. Have been my entire life. Do you see the word exercise in the dictionary? My name is not there. But all of a sudden, in around 2011, I all of a sudden start hearing, you need to jog, you need to run. No, I ignored it. I said, no, you need to run. You need to move. You need to run. I couldn't get it out of my head. And anybody who's intuitive knows that when these thoughts start, until you do it, the thoughts will keep going and they get louder until you do it. It's mildly irritating. So I started the Couch to 5K running program, which is a real thing. It's brilliant. It's online and it does exactly what you think it does. And eventually I ran a 5K. And while I was doing the jogging, the weight started to come off. And I went from a 14 down to an 8. I knew it was coming off too quick. I knew it. And the day before my birthday, I did a self exam. I found a lump. It was stage 3, triple positive breast cancer. 10 operations, chemo, a double
mastectomy.
mastectomy, and I'm still here. 13 years later, I'm still alive. But the surgeon told me if I hadn't taken up running exactly when I did, I would be dead because it was in a very strange spot. So my point is, you have heard the little bird in your shoulder many times, usually in times of, trial like that. But you can actually hear the little bird in your shoulder purposely, because you either hear it, see it, know it, or you just sense it. Not everybody hears words like I do. Sometimes you see pictures, sometimes you feel things, sometimes you just know to turn left instead of right. Everybody has a unique way. There's actually 15 different ways to that people hear their intuition. I usually only talk about 4 of them, but there's actually 15.
Wow.
Believe it or not.
Wow. I don't know
And we
what
all
all
do
those are.
this. 10 out of 10 humans do this. Everybody watching and listening to this broadcast does it. Everybody.
Everybody does it. It's just that they choose not to listen to it because why? I mean, we're not taught to listen to ourselves. We're not taught to value ourselves enough. We think we're separated from the world when we're not. No, we have a earth suit that we wear. But
No,
if you look at the energy, everything is interconnected. And so are we. We're still connected. We're still social beings. You think Facebook is a social platform. Well, it's really not a social platform, but it's the illusion that people have of, oh, I have 10,000 friends. And are they going to be in the hospital when you die? No, you might be lucky to have your parents. Or you may not have anyone, because I know a lot of people in my generation that are dying that have died alone.
sure.
You're going to die alone anyways,
Well, yeah.
but they're really alone.
But you're never alone, because some of the things we were
No.
told is not real is really real. Angels are real. Spirit guides are real. The fact that when you die, you are not alone is real. All of these things are real. And you can, it's an energy and it's a presence. Now, what can block you from hearing all these wonderful things and getting all this wonderful advice is, well, the more angry you are, the more it's going to block what you can see and you can hear.
Well, my mother, when she died, I know that somebody walked in the room because everything about her changed.
Yeah.
I mean, the way she looked, she was like this little kid. I mean, there was so much that I could tell that they were just waiting for her to say it's time. And
Yeah.
then when my uncle passed, my godfather, I reached out to call him because I was like the last one to call, and I had found out he was that he it was like any day now. And I called and he was waiting for me. And so what was so funny is I would tell him things and he's like, yes, Kath. And he's sitting here telling me what I'm telling him, but he's like confirming, like, I already know that, but it's really this and this and this. And he's like, and I'm like, Uncle John, I know this. I know this. It's like, this is my life. No, he's telling me my life. He is being communicated to let me know that he's connected. Now, I knew
Oh,
he wasn't
cool.
going to die alone, but it was just such an interesting experience. And this is a man of very few words, okay? Very few words. It's like, hi, how you doing? Goodbye, nice talking to you, and hangs up. That's the kind of guy. No,
Yep.
he
I have
sat there on
relatives
the
like
phone
that.
and told me my life.
Yep. Very and out of character for the man.
Totally out of character.
Yep.
But
I had relatives like that.
and it was just like, I'm just so glad you called because I really wanted to call you. And he died the next day after I called him because I think there was something that he had to do, is how I
Yep.
looked at it, that he had to have a confirmation because I think he was a little bit afraid of dying. My mother claimed she wasn't afraid of death. My mother was terrified of dying. My father was terrified of dying.
I
And I
couldn't
think
be less
somehow they
terrified of
just
dying.
needed.
I know what happens. I actually get people's past lives all the time for people in private sessions. So I know what happens on the other side. I'm not really a fan of pain, to be honest. But I know this is not the first lifetime anybody has lived.
No.
There have been hundreds and hundreds of lifetimes that everybody has lived.
I know we're going to go down. We're getting close to winding up, but I want to ask you one question. So get your guides on.
Yep.
Somebody said something, and I'm really not buying this one, but I want to hear from them. Are people coming into this earth without a soul? Are they being born without souls?
No.
Huh?
No.
Thank you.
That was a
I did.
fast no. It was a loud, fast no. I don't know who
Thank you.
told you that, but
Thank you.
no. Everything has a soul. Plants, animals, everything has soul. Everything is sentient. Everything has energy around it. The desk that I have, the little microphone that I'm talking into, everything has energy around it. And everything that's alive, like my plants, who all have names, thank you very much, including Grandpa, who's a 31-year-old plant that's down in my kitchen. True story. Grandpa has a soul and an energy around him, and he's a plant, and I
Thank you,
adore him.
because I heard this a week ago, and I tried to get clarity from the person because I knew it was BS. I just knew it, when something rings, but she was so adamant, so adamant, so adamant, and I said, "Okay, so are you telling me that that the people that are coming that are being born on this planet have never been born and they don't get a soul until they earn their soul?"
No, that's wrong. And even brand new souls, and there are young souls, and
Yes,
you
there
can
are
tell
young
there are
souls.
young souls because they're usually into how they look and money and that kind of
Yeah,
thing, and they wanna go through the stuff, and they wanna feel all the feels and that
yeah,
kind of thing.
yep.
Everybody has a soul. Everybody, period.
Thank
I
you.
am solid 100%. Take that to the bank. Now, what you were seeing with her is that was her fear talking.
That's her fear? Well, that's an interesting
She
thought.
was scared that she didn't have a soul. Something scared her, and that was her way of addressing her own fear.
Okay.
She was scared she came in soulless because of something she did in her life, something bad that she did. So she connected some dots that she probably shouldn't have connected. Well, since I'm a bad person, clearly I don't have a soul, so there must be other people like me. She connected some dots that shouldn't have been connected. It was her fear that was talking. She was trying to understand her fear and what she did. And let's just say she didn't do it very well. 'Cause there's a more loving answer to what her fears were.
Yeah, okay. No,
I
and
approach
I have that
everything with
there's just
I approach everything and what is the most loving way I can get through this, which is how I would probably approach counseling her.
well, and that I think I know some of her story and I think part of it makes sense, and there's just things, and she knows I question her all the time anyways, but I just
I kinda
wanted
wanna
to
wrap my arms around her and give her a hug. That's kind of my knee-jerk reaction is I wanna give her a hug and tell her it's gonna be okay.
well, I she knows somewhere deep inside it's gonna be okay, but there's a lot. I mean, it's just a lot of things, and
Give
it's
her
all
my book.
okay, and I understand, and I'm not gonna go down because 'cause I'm sure she's listening to the show anyways.
Give her my book. I also have an online class, and it's super easy, super simple, 10 days, and I'll even have you forgiving money.
Yeah, money's a good thing to forgive. I
There
keep
you
working on
go.
forgiving all of that too. I still do a lot of forgiveness work, believe it or not, people. As much as I forgive, I keep doing more because when somebody comes up or I trigger or they're in my head doing whatever, doesn't matter what it is. If my father pops up, it's like, okay, I think I need to forgive him because I'm like going on down a spiral again. So it's just like, okay, whatever this is. And I just keep working the forgiveness because what I found, the more I forgive, the lighter I get and the happier I get and the more life is enjoyable.
You're not getting angry again. You can get somebody on a scale of 1 to 10, with 10 being unforgivable and 1 being easy. You can get somebody who you've labeled a 10 all the way down to a 1. And you're probably going to get angry at them again because there's residual anger. It's like washing a glass in the dishwasher, and sometimes when you take the glass out, you have to wipe it because there's some residual, yuts in the glass. That's what this is. So when your father makes you mad again, for example, it's not going to go back up to a 10. You're probably going to look at it and say, oh, you're going to notice it. You're going to say, well, that's irritating. And then you're going to toss it.
Yep,
You've forgiven because it doesn't bother you anymore. The burden is gone.
right. And that's definitely what I've noticed. And it's not like like
Yeah,
you're clenching your teeth,
yeah, that's
especially when
gone.
you start on that 10 person, that is a
Oh, the
hard
10s
place
are
to
hard.
go.
The 10s are
So
hard.
when Catherine tells you to start at the ones that are easy, there's a reason why you start at the ones easy because you need to get practice because
Mhm.
when that anger flares up and it's in your throat and you're like, and you just want to kill and murder and see red, you need to just know how to like be calm again. So, I mean,
They're a 10, do them last. Do not start with your number 10s,
now
please. You start with the easy ones. And in the book and also in my class, there's a very easy step by step, do this, do this, do this. It's a 7 steps. Somebody counted up the steps for me once. It was a podcaster. I think they told me it was 7 steps. Okay. And it's 7 steps, real easy, that will get you to forgive that person you never thought you would forgive in your life. But if you never forgive that person, it's totally fine. I'm the only one on the planet that's going to tell you don't have to forgive the unforgivable, because there are things in this world that are unforgivable. 100%. But there's other things within that memory that you can forgive. And that's the whole, you can still get peace without forgiving the one dude.
Right. And I highly recommend Catherine's book to everyone, and I'm going to put it in the show notes. So Catherine, how can people get a hold of you?
Just go to my website. My first name is spelled a little odd thanks to my mother, but it's Katharine. So it's CatherineGiovanni.com. The book, the class, I've got a lot of podcast episodes in there that explain the system. Everything's right there for you. And the books are all on Amazon.com.
All right. Well, I want to thank you so much for being here with us today, Catherine. It was so much fun to go down a little bit of a different rabbit hole than what we probably planned on talking about. But this was fun because I think this is, people are just looking and searching, and they might be having experiences, and who talks about this stuff? Not very many people. So I don't mind leading the forefront on this. And I want to thank all of my guests today, and the subscribers, anybody watching. Thank you for showing up. I do appreciate it. If you got any value, please like or subscribe and reach out to me or Catherine. I'm sure we will be more than happy to talk to you about whatever's coming up. I have a free school community. I am the Light Sanctuary. Check it out. This is for people like us that, you got things. It's a safe haven. So you can calm down and just be okay being with you. And it's a very safe and protected community. And I want to, again, thank you for coming. I will see all of you next Tuesday at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And from my heart to yours, I wish you all a fabulous week. Having trouble stopping this.